shutting this movie down!
I'm about to kill Tom Cruise.
When the actors are exhausted, one is on the floor.
What makes it terrifying is how many different ways Tom could be killed.
I need you to take a step back and pull yourself together.
We had to build the train if we wanted to destroy it. I could tell you, but then I'd have to kill you.
Then why are we fighting this?
How many meters is that?
Again, that's not normal.
Not pleasant, you know? It's just not pleasant.
Tom Cruise just rode a motorcycle off a cliff.
Always wanted to make movies. I love it.
I better get back to work. We gotta get this shot. You have a very safe and happy holiday. We'll see you at the movies.
Over the past few years, many films and shows have faced challenges and delays in their production due to the pandemic, but maybe none face the challenges more so than Mission Impossible 7: Dead Reckoning. And with high-ranking premiere week reviews rolling in predicting this to be yet another wildly successful summer blockbuster for Tom Cruise, let's take a deeper look at the story of one of the most complicated movie productions, perhaps, of all time. It all started in January 14th, 2019, when Tom Cruise took to Twitter and said simply, "Summer 2021 and Summer 2022" with this short video. And the director of the last two installments of the franchise, Christopher McQuarrie, tweeted, "Missions accepted." The plan was to shoot back-to-back installments and release them in subsequent years. McQuarrie told the Toronto Sun that as the credits rolled at the end of Mission Impossible 6's premiere, Tom Cruise told him, "Yeah, we can do better." As Tom Cruise wrapped up principal filming for Top Gun in June of 2019, they started to sign returning cast members on for the movie, and they scheduled filming to begin in Venice on February 20th, 2020 under the working title of Libra. In Venice, they were planning on filming an elaborate action sequence during Carnival Venice, an annual festival known for its elaborate masks. But these plans were halted by, well, I think you know.
China has identified the cause of the mysterious new virus, coronavirus.
On Hollywood Boulevard tonight, an eerie silence. Like most of Hollywood, it's gone dark thanks to the coronavirus. And even when production resumes, there are major challenges on the horizon.
On February 24th, Paramount released a statement effectively shutting down production until everyone could get a better handle on how this situation would unfold and let all crew return to their home countries to be with their families. And probably one of the few moments in the 100+ years of cinema's history, almost all production of any kind went dark. Fast forward to the summer of 2020, on July 6th, it was announced that the crew had received special permission from the UK that would not require them to take a 2-week quarantine for cast and crew members traveling from other countries. This came after Tom Cruise had talked with Culture Secretary Oliver Dowden to create this plan that would allow them to begin filming again in September of 2020.
And today, I'm very pleased to announce that we can go a little bit further. As of this weekend, our artists, musicians and dancers can start performing live outside to outdoor audiences. Normal life is slowly returning.
Shortly after this, Norway would also follow suit and allow the same provisions. In the meantime, Tom Cruise and the stunt team had already been busy getting ready for one of the 3, as director McQuarrie called them, obscene stunts that he had promised for this movie, saying that even he was terrified of his plans.
So Tom put together this master plan to coordinate all of these experts in each of the particular disciplines involved to make this whole thing happen. What makes it terrifying is how many different ways Tom could be killed. But they're all knowns. They're all things that you've thought about and can't control.
John and I are jumping out of the helicopter. He's gonna chase me. That's what we say to each other. Don't be careful, be confident.
And with the crazy stunts common in most Mission Impossible movies, it's not uncommon for things to go wrong. Even in the last movie, Tom Cruise had broken an ankle while filming one of the stunts.
So it's keeping me up.
Okay, so here he goes. Look at that. Whoa, and whoa!
I knew I broke it instantly.
So you're down. Now anyone else will go, well, that's over. No. Up he gets, and he's running.
And it was no different for this film, with a costly stunt going wrong while they were in Oxfordshire, England on August 13th, 2020. It had been reported that Tom Cruise and his team had been preparing a bike stunt for over 6 weeks. The stunt had them then jumping over a large ramp and jumping from the bike and landing on large pillows that were filled with cardboard.
They were doing 30 jumps a day.
Getting to a point where he was just a machine. I mean, over 500 skydives.
That's what we do. Over 13,000 motocross jumps.
We replicated this ramp in England at a quarry.
We filled the quarry with cardboard boxes, which were there to catch the motorcycle. The reason why we did that is so that Tom could simulate the jump.
During one of the test runs, they made a miscalculation and the bike landed into the cardboard padding, causing a fire from the friction of the wheels. Thankfully, no one was injured, and Tom Cruise was actually jumping out of a helicopter at the time, practicing for a different part of the stunt. But this was another costly setback on a movie that had barely begun filming and had been delayed several times, which left Tom Cruise feeling reportedly very frustrated.
Always wear my earplugs so I don't hear myself scream.
This was obviously a setup to test for the highly marketed and absolutely insane stunt Tom Cruise would later perform several times off the side of a mountain in Norway, a stunt he called the most dangerous of his career. So while this was a bit of a setback and caused some delays, kind of better that this happened early in the testing phase and not in an uncontrolled environment. This all finally led to September 6th, 2020, where Mission Impossible would finally begin filming its first scene of the entire movie. And yes, it was the motorcycle stunt scene, which is a pretty epic way to start filming.
Today is day one of principal photography, and we are starting in classic Mission form with the biggest stunt in the film.
3, 1,
Now, with one of the most challenging shots of the entire movie finished, they could all breathe a sigh of relief and move on to making the rest of the movie. In October, they would film all across the northern parts of Norway. Things seemed to finally be back on track after this, and they were cruising along with their production and headed yet again to Italy for production. But COVID caught up to them again, and this time in a much more personal nature on October 26th, 2020.
Now to Mission Impossible 7 production, shutting down once again after at least one member of the set tested positive for COVID.
Filming on the Tom Cruise sequel will shut down for 14 days while those involved self-isolate.
Thankfully, production was only shut down for about a week, and they were able to continue on. And with production of the movie chugging well along at this point, there was another issue brewing behind the scenes, and that was the budget. Despite adjusting their plans for filming locations and really striving to be as economical as possible in making this movie, they started to slowly exceed their budget cap of $240 million, which was already $50 million more than the $190 million budget for 2019's Mission Impossible Fallout. A lot of this was out of the control of the filmmakers, as mounting setbacks and constantly changing plans due to COVID just kept driving their budget higher and higher up. And this eventually started causing issues with the studios. Skydance, who had partnered with Paramount to fund this movie, met their contractual obligation of funding based on their contract and kind of refused to pay any overages, leaving Paramount to pick up the extra $50 million tab as this movie's budget ballooned to around $290 million, making it one of the most expensive movies ever made. Now, generally in a normal circumstance, this would be manageable, considering it is one of the largest franchises out there, having raked in over $3.5 billion during its run, making it the 18th highest grossing film series of all time, and it will likely climb higher than this after release. But unfortunately, with COVID really hitting hard, cash was not as easy to come by. Paramount was really hoping to be able to cover some of these extra expenses through its insurers.
Film studio Paramount's insurance limit, they say, for the cast was $100 million, but the insurers don't want to pay anywhere near that. Now Paramount is taking them to court, claiming breach of contract.
So for now, they've had to just absorb a lot of these additional costs and also contend with the fact that Mission Impossible, while profitable, is not as big of a moneymaker as it would seem.
That's the fun of making movies, you know, to all be together and do it.
So one could see how a production this big with massive stunts, big name actors, multiple filming locations in the midst of a pandemic was a hard financial pill for Paramount to swallow. But they managed it, and production would continue on towards the end of 2020. And probably no one felt that pressure more than director McQuarrie and Tom Cruise. And all of this culminated into this infamous audio clip of Tom Cruise outburst on set.
We are back with Tom Cruise tearing into the Mission Impossible 7 crew over coronavirus protocol violations on set.
I don't ever want to see it again! Ever! And if you don't do it, you're fired! And I see you do it again, you're gone.
This is a fascinating reaction that does make sense due to the tremendous stress everyone was under. Many celebrities were supportive of this and applauded his efforts.
You can get a new camera operator, no disrespect to camera operators. It's him, and if he's looking over and he can see you not doing what you're supposed to be doing, it's kind of like a little bit of a middle finger. in my opinion.
But one does have to wonder whether this outburst was really warranted. I mean, Tom Cruise is intimately involved in most of the films he stars in, and he does show how much he cares about these films to the point of making sure he shook every person's hand that came up to see this movie during the premiere. But even though he cares so much about it, there is no denying that there is a financial side of this for him.
That's it! No apologies. You can tell it to the people that are losing their homes because our industry is shut down.
And it does seem a bit much to have this sort of outburst towards a situation that seems pretty innocuous and not ill-intentioned. We're not denying the extreme situations this happened in, considering all the pressure, but it also is probably prudent not to applaud this kind of behavior on set either.
But in a statement, a spokesperson for the union representing film crews in the UK criticizes Tom's rant, saying, quote, "After a very difficult year for freelancers working in the industry, the last thing crews deserve is a multi-millionaire Hollywood star screaming abuse and threatening their jobs."
Moving on from this outburst, they continued filming over the next few months into 2021 and would conclude most of their principal filming in February of 2021 in the Middle East, and had at that point just a few things they would be filming as touch-ups and some other stunts for the rest of 2021, including the next controversy they faced in production, the destruction of a Polish bridge. During 2019, while scouting for locations, the production team ran into a problem with their preferred location in the Swiss Alps for a crazy train stunt that would have involved explosions, specifically a bridge explosion. And the Swiss government was not at all interested in explosions in the Alps and told them to go find another bridge, not in Switzerland. They expanded their search and also decided that they wanted to have the train crash in the scene as well. And they finally found what they believed to be the perfect place in Poland with an old bridge that had survived World War II. For some reason, McQuarrie went to the site himself under extreme secrecy, but of course, had to post about it on Instagram. Slowly, locals began to hear that the team had actually planned to blow up the bridge, not with CGI, but for real. And in the summer of 2020, the story started to get the attention of national news, and were receiving a lot of backlash, including a Polish-American producer, Andrew Eskner, that Paramount had hired to help them in their scouting search, accusing them of working with shady people from Poland with connections in the Polish government. And in his opinion, they had chosen corruption and illegal activities instead of transparency. And he is currently locked into a lawsuit with Tom Cruise and Paramount for not paying him and intimidating him. Needless to say, they did not want them to film this or blow up the bridge, and the General Conservator of Monuments for the Polish police stated that there was no question of destroying this bridge. So they moved locations back to Norway and the UK, and for the specific scene, they filmed it in the spring and summer of 2021, filming the train going over a bridge that blew up on the North Yorkshire Moors Railway, and then moving to the Peak District National Park in Stony Middleton in August, just for filming to be suspended for 2 weeks at this location because another film, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, was also using this same railway line to film their opening scene of their movie. So finally, after that 2-week delay, and after searching for a location since 2019, they were able to finish shooting the last element of this ridiculous train stunt sequence on August 20th, 2021, where a mock-up of a train was sent over the side of a cliff and down into a quarry.
You'd be chasing the train as it goes off. Every single camera had exactly one shot at getting it right.
It's not just a matter of going off. Because if we do it all, we don't capture it right, what's the point?
2, 1, action!
1 month later, in September 2021, they would officially wrap up principal filming and head into post-production, gearing up for a 2022 release. Or so they thought.
And we are back now with these constantly shifting strategies for the big blockbusters and when they'll land in theaters and your living room. This is a mission impossible for 2 big Tom Cruise movies that are now moving to 2022.
Until finally, it found its final release date on July 14th, 2023, just a week shy of being delayed for almost over 2 years. And while we have come to expect delays like this, and will likely see even more with the ongoing writer's strike, the exact placing of this release date caused an unforeseen issue with it being released so close to 2 other major summer movies.
You are the man who gave them the power to destroy themselves. And the world is not prepared.
Do you guys ever think about dying?
Oppenheimer and Barbie. And this meant that Mission Impossible would only get to use IMAX screens for a week before the release of Oppenheimer. The reason why?
IMAX, 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 and IMAX, IMAX for IMAX, and IMAX, IMAX for IMAX, IMAX.
Because Christopher Nolan actually used IMAX cameras to make his movie, while Mission Impossible used digital, ready for IMAX cameras, the Sony Venice and Z-Cam. Meaning with such close release schedules, they kind of had to give the limited IMAX theaters over to Christopher Nolan, who is basically the spokesperson for all things IMAX. I think we kind of know that at this point.
Tom Cruise reportedly, quote, pretty pissed. Sources tell Puck's Matt Belloni that Belloni has been complaining loudly to Paramount execs and others about the IMAX situation.
So he's so furious that he's talking about it to everybody, that he only gets 1 week. Have you talked to Tom Cruise about this?
I have talked to him probably several weeks ago, and he's calmed down a lot. And in fact, today he went to a theater in London and he posed in front of an Oppenheimer poster and a Barbie poster, and he and I texted back and forth, and he said, you know, he wants what's good for all theaters. He's rooting for everybody.
The reason why this matters, though, is because there's a slight uptick in prices for IMAX, meaning you can make some extra money over traditional theater showings. Not to mention that as a filmmaker, you really do want to have this kind of movie with all of these stunts and that you paid $290 million for to, be shown in the best theaters. In some regards, it's a miracle that this movie even made it to theaters in the first place. From stunts that could have killed Tom Cruise, the pandemic that jacked up the production budget and caused delay after delay. The fact that we all get to sit down and enjoy this summer blockbuster at all is impressive. And you know what else is impressive? The amount of time Christopher Nolan has destroyed IMAX cameras. And you should definitely check that video out right here.